Yeah, so I mean, I'm thinking about creating a universal language. Is what I'm coming down to. Is because why can't we talk to all the people?
I don't know.
What?
I know you have to learn
out yet.
Yeah, if you want to talk to different people, you have to learn a ton of different languages.
And I am interested in learning other languages.
Same here.
Because you can't do it right now, but why don't we just come up with a universal language?
I'd like that. And I think what you'd have to do is you'd have to take parts of everyone's language so that everyone felt... I don't know, because otherwise you're going to say, here's this language that everyone has to learn. If you incorporate everyone's culture and the heritage of their language into the new language...
They can still speak their own language.
Yeah, they could, but, otherwise they're going to be like, well, why can't my language just be universal
because it's
language?
like trying to, the Romance languages, there's a lot of things that you could, like Romanian and Spanish and whatever. You could probably just interchange some words and, there's still, a similar conjugation and stuff like that. But if you're trying to mix that with Russian or German, it's like trying to mix together math in, a cooking show. It's just not going to make sense.
I wonder if we should start taking moments of the podcast, little sound bites, putting them on there, and then we can play them throughout the podcast.
Do you have any in mind?
No. We could create some though. Maybe we could get Ariana to. I don't know if are we starting it? Is the podcast started?
Yeah, it's on.
It's on. Maybe we could get Ariana to come back on the podcast. Maybe sing a little something, and we can
Who is that?
Grandre.
Who's Ariana?
Ariana Grandre.
No, but it's Ariana.
Oh, it's Ariana. That's right. She corrected me before.
She said that in the last episode.
I feel bad. I mean, I keep getting it wrong, and I feel like it's definitely disrespectful to not pronounce the guest's name right.
Yeah, it isn't. It is very disrespectful.
Yeah. Ariana, I'm sorry. Please come back on the podcast.
I think she'll be back.
That's good. She's in the area still. She's staying around for a while. Just had some business to take care of with Steve and that whole thing.
Well, we'll figure it out. And we will we'll get a song going with her. We figured out a way to sing, because pop stars, they sing with auto-tune. And it's not wrong, and it actually it gives a lot of people opportunity to be artists where their abilities aren't there.
Yeah, and sometimes you can create a nice creative thing. It can add a lot of spice and flavor, even to somebody who doesn't need it.
Yeah, so I mean, when you can make somebody sound like they're a better musician, then there's more people to choose from, and then when there's more people to choose from, then you can choose. Then the companies have more options. So it's better. It's better for big business, but it's also better for people who want to be artists.
Yeah.
But it's also not good for artists.
Definitely. I can see how it creates an environment where it's easier to become an artist, but it's also more difficult to become an artist in a world that has so much, but also having so much, there's so many more opportunities. So it's like this double-sided sword, definitely.
Yeah, and it'd be harder to be, if you are just singing in kind of in an unproduced setting, you'll be not as good of an artist. If you got into being an artist on autotune and you never branch out of that.
Yeah. No, and it's difficult to change music genres for a lot of these artists too, because I think we talked about this on a car ride back from the studio one time. Who was it? Tried to make something that was a little bit unconventional in his category of music. I think it was R&B, right?
Well, you're gonna have to give me more information. I don't know really what you're talking about.
I can't remember the name of the guy.
Somebody
Was
making
it
unconventional music.
somebody tried to go outside of what they usually make, right? They
Okay.
tried to add a little bit of spice to it,
Yeah.
and the audience was not enjoying.
Was it
this
Kanye and
change.
Yeezus, or was it something else?
I don't think it was Kanye. People usually actually accept Kanye's when he makes big like changes and stuff in his music.
Well, people didn't really like
but-
Yeezus.
Oh no, they didn't.
No, it was really harsh and minimalistic, and there's a lot of just heavy synth. And I wish we could play a clip, but people didn't like that one because he was
Interesting.
pissed off when he was making the album. He said,
Oh, he was.
yeah. And if you can even look at his interviews from that time, there's one with Zane Lowe, and he's wearing like a camo jacket, and he just started yelling at Zane Lowe. He's a British, I think he's a British guy. He does Apple One interviews. I think generally I like him. But after the interview, he was like, "Oh my, holy shit!" Like, he was not prepared for Kanye just to go yelling at him.
Yeah. I don't think anyone is. I mean,
Yeah. Well, some people are.
maybe.
I mean, he's not like there's other people who are similar to him, but maybe just not as famous.
Yeah, no. I guess it does go to show then, even for someone like him, right, who has achieved as much as he has and is as popular as he is, there's still the audience still oftentimes doesn't like too much change. Like there is when someone is in a genre, it's easy for them to get stuck in there because if they try to change or do something different, there's a portion of their audience that is not going to go along with it necessarily. They might resist that change that the artist wants to do
Sure.
or the thing that the artist wants to try.
But then the question is like, why is somebody an artist? Is it to keep a fan base, or is it to create purely what they want to create? And I don't think there's a clear answer, but definitely it's a good question because I don't know. I think a pure artist isn't thinking about the result or how people are going to receive it. It's just like it's either what they like or what they want to create in this context of what kind of artist they were previously. Like they can even who they were before influences or allows them to create what they're doing next as a transition, and their art is like a continuation of the work they've done before. And it'd be different than if a brand new artist just did a genre swap, like actually changing from this kind of artist to this kind of artist is part of the art, if that makes sense.
I definitely agree with that. I think the definition of art is something that it's being created by a person, not necessarily for people. I mean, it's a pretty deep question when you ask, is art if nobody sees it? If someone paints a painting, that it's still art. It's still classified as art, even if only maybe 4 people see it, and maybe only one person likes it. Like Vincent van Gogh, people did not like his art when he was painting.
When he was even alive, really.
Yeah. Only after he died is when his art actually was appreciated by people.
Yeah.
And by that standpoint, I think even stuff that people don't like or don't see is still art. So therefore, the audience is kind of retracted from the equation when you talk about true art.
Yeah.
It just artists they need, I suppose you would say, right, to find a way to make a living. So therefore, they are dependent on the people who are consuming their art, because that is the only way that you can make a living, is by achieving a certain popularity where you can sustain yourself. And there's probably a fear of losing that, and therefore the art is also attached to that equation separately.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure it happens a bunch of different ways for different artists. But you got to imagine the most prolific artists, the context of what's going on around them in the world influences what they're creating and how they perform it or put it out. It's an influence, but it's not reliant on that, or it's not reliant on the response of all the people. It's a piece that's placed in this context of the time period we're in, and people either like it or they don't like it. Like Vincent van Gogh, like some would say he's ahead of his time, but also like he's also just not tuned in with his own time and what's going on there. And it just depends on if he cared about that or not. If he just cared about creating the best art he could, or I think it has a lot to do with what the people were intending to do. And some people just literally have no idea what's going on, and they're just amazing artists, and they're not thinking about other people. They're just taking their inspiration and just doing stuff.
Definitely no. And I mean, some of the best art does thrive in those kind of settings where somebody is either they're not worried about the outside world and what they're going to think, or they're not worried about whether it fits with the times or whether it's going to be acceptable here or there. They just make it because that's what they want to make, and that's how they're expressing themselves. And sometimes it takes off, and sometimes it doesn't. And in Vincent's case, it took off after he died.
Yeah.
Which,
and
I
maybe
guess
he was trying his best to fit in, and his skill set or the way he interfaced with the world just didn't fit with his time period. Maybe he was doing the best that he could. Who knows? I surely don't know. One thing that I've been thinking about is that people it has been people that has created all the things that we use, and that maybe those people weren't always qualified to do the job they were doing, and sometimes we take for granted that these things are just things that work, but we may be just using an inefficient item.
Yeah, that is interesting to think about. There's a lot of things where somebody who wasn't necessarily, again, trained to do said job, or they weren't even expecting to go into a career or just experiment in that category at all, right, in their life.
Yeah.
And they end up creating something that revolutionizes sometimes the world.
Yeah.
It changes things forever. It's weird. Yeah, definitely.
Like, what if the person that made Latin just was bad at his job?
Maybe it was like a school teacher or something at some really fine institution, but he just sucked. He's just terrible.
Yeah.
But he started writing this language, and people were like, what is this? What is this on this paper? Why are you... This is gibberish. Stop it and teach the kids. And he's like, I like it. It's my hobby. Stop. And they left. And then maybe after he died, people were like, this is efficient. This is great. Why are we...
Are you talking about the guy that created Latin?
Yeah.
No, but I'm saying the opposite. Maybe you're saying he was like the Vincent van Gogh of language, right?
Yeah.
They didn't get it. But what if he was just terrible what if Latin sucked as a way to communicate to people? And, that's the derivative of all of these languages: Spanish, French, English, all this stuff. So what if he sucked at it and we're just using a crappy language?
Wait, then the question is, so I don't know historically what was used in those regions before Latin, right?
Yeah.
It was probably some Celtic, maybe that's maybe that's probably after Latin was created. I don't know. I can't claim to know what happened before they created Latin, but whatever the communication, whatever communication was used before Latin, it would have to be, if it was more efficient, the question would be how would Latin catch on like it did? People would have to say, this is really inconvenient and a stupid way to communicate compared to what we have right now, but we're going to trade it in.
Yeah, well, it's not that simple though. Like it sounds like it'd be pretty straightforward, but you got to imagine. There's a book by Malcolm Gladwell called The Tipping Point, and basically the whole question of the book is, why do some things become popular when other things don't? And sometimes it's not the best product that becomes popular. It can be influenced by personalities. It can be influenced by a culture, like fashion items, like super vintage items coming back into popularity and becoming very expensive. Has nothing to do with necessarily their quality or their ability to thrive in today's market of what's being sold now. So who knows? I mean, it could have been easily... this was the guy's livelihood of creating Latin, and he got in with the right business people or politicians, and they just decided that they were going to start teaching this in schools instead. Like, I don't exactly know.
Usually, I guess, you do never know how something gets popularized, and Latin, even if it was unconventional compared to the previous language, it could have been that popular to the point where it took over. But I think everything that's popularized, whether it's inconvenient or not, or a bad product, or even a good product, there's always something about it that makes it popular, right? There's something like the sound is popular. There'd have to be some characteristic of Latin that would make it popular enough to overtake the previous language.
Yeah, and we don't know what that is. Like like you said, it could just be the way it sounds, or it would allow you to talk about certain things that you weren't able to say before, and then once you make the switch over, you don't realize all the things that you are missing out now that you changed from the old language. We don't really know.
And maybe even speaking wise, it could be really convenient, right? But maybe writing wise, it's way more difficult. Yeah. Imagine maybe there were some people who didn't like the direction that the language changed, where it was taking society, and they were like, no, I draw rock, smash, animal. I draw on paper. And the other guy's like, listen, this isn't good enough. I want to talk about it. I want to talk about what did the animal look like? No. And he's like, the caveman guy. Yeah, and I can't even say that because, listen, I don't know if there was a really primitive language before Latin. There could have been another language, and who knows? Maybe it was just as complex, and there was some other reason.
I don't think it was straight from caveman to Latin.
No, I don't think so either. No, but maybe let's go back to when language was first being created in these areas, right?
Sure.
And it was just cave drawings, right?
Yeah.
And a very primitive sense of communication. Trying to
come. I come house.
Yeah, I come house. And no one knows what that means. Someone in the society, he's had a light bulb in his head, and he's like, everyone's saying they're coming to my house.
Yeah.
Get out of my house. I need someone to explain to me why they're coming to my house. I be at house. How do I tell him no? I can't. No house. You don't have house. I'm writing this language. Look, you're going to learn. Imagine being the guy who has to be like, this is better.
Yeah, no, literally the guy who creates written language. Yeah. That blows my mind. Like, that's crazy that somebody came up with that idea and it became popular. Start coming from just literally gibberish, only learning through with, interaction with other people. Yeah, that's got to be crazy.
And imagine being the person who tries to convince all these people that this is good. Mm-hmm. Like, imagine you just invented something that didn't exist in society, a language, right?
Yeah.
Afterwards, it was like, oh, this is a language. Okay, I know what a language is.
And there's a subject and a predicate and, conjugation and all this.
Yeah. But even, no one would know what even a language is. They'd be like,
Yeah.
wait, you're trying to figure out a way to talk, is what you're trying to say. You're trying to develop.
We're already doing that. We're already talking. What are you even trying to do?
Yeah. This is working. We're working just fine. This guy would come off as an insane person. He'd be like, I have invented in my mind something that will allow us to speak, and he can't even tell people in that way because there is no language. So he has to speak and say, talk like this, rock. You have to put is after rock. Why is the rock? Wait, why is there a the with the rock? Usually we just pick up the rock and we say, this is.
Yeah. You got to imagine that's crazy, and you also got to imagine. We're probably not using the best language. Like, is Russian better? Is Vietnamese or something? Is that more effective? Because I mean, it's very unlikely. Or is it possible to create one language that all people speak?
That is a good question, and it's interesting that somehow, English became such a widely used language. Like, for some reason, in European countries, and even if you go to Mexico or Canada, there's a lot of English speakers. And
Currently, that's because there's so much currency. There's so much to be gained by learning English and being able to move to America or work in the American market. Tourism in Mexico, all that, like, it's really important. But previously, it was because of the expansion of when England was ruling a lot of the globe.
Colonialism, yeah.
And then, same with Spanish, right? It's all in South America. It's all in Mexico and in Spain, right? Because they just took over everything. So England and Spain really, like, they influenced it that way. And it was like the people in power, they're just going to say, hey, you got to speak our language. So that's maybe part of it is just like, this is what we speak here. Okay, stop being a bitch. You know,
even the French did it too.
I don't know his Spanish. What? Stop being a bitch. You know?
Yeah.
Like that?
There's places. There's some African countries that speak French.
Oh yeah.
And it all goes back to those colonial era things or it's just like. I was thinking. I was trying to think about the French language. Oh, you have to speak a language.
Yeah. Oh.
Someone's like, yeah. Just imagine hearing that.
Albert, I don't know.
Imagine you're just living your life. You know, you're just a farmer. You're having a nice time, and you hear behind you, oh shit.
A farmer where?
I don't know. Just in one of the countries that was a colony of France, and you hear that one day. You're just farming. Yeah, I'm having a good time just farming. Oh God! Oh shit! Oh no! Oh God!
They don't even speak French then. Well, that could be anyone.
They wouldn't know the language at this point. So that's just what it would sound like. They just say, right. And they'd get in their house. They'd close the door. God, no! What are these people? Oh God!
That's when the French were taking over your town.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. And they didn't have weapons. They just chased people around. Wow. A language. Yeah, so I'm thinking about creating a universal language is basically what I'm coming down to, is because why can't we talk to all the people?
I don't know.
What?
I know.
We haven't figured that out yet?
Yeah, if you want to talk to different people, you have to learn a ton of different languages.
And I am interested in learning other languages.
Same here.
Because you can't do it right now, but why don't we just come up with a universal language?
I'd like that. And I think what you'd have to do is you'd have to take parts of everyone's language so that everyone felt... I don't know, because otherwise you're going to say, here's this language that everyone has to learn. If you incorporate everyone's culture and the heritage of their language into the new language...
They can still speak their own language.
Yeah, they could, but, you know, otherwise they're gonna be like, well, why can't my language just be
Well, because
universal
it's
language?
like trying to like the romance languages. There's a lot of things that you could like Romanian and Spanish and whatever. You could probably just interchange some words, and like there's still like a similar conjugation and stuff like that. But if you're trying to mix that with Russian or German, like it's like trying to mix together math and like a cooking show. Like it's just not gonna make sense.
It would be difficult. I will
Y
say
y
that.
equals mx plus roast the turkey at 350 for 45 minutes.
But the real question
What?
is,
No,
But-
that's not gonna work.
it would be extremely difficult. It would absolutely be extremely difficult. But if there is a will, there's a way, I think.
Yeah,
And that if
Will
someone
Smith.
was really, Will Smith,
he could do it.
He could do it. Hey, Will Smith, if you're watching, clip this, send it to Will Smith. Will Smith, create the universal language, study all of the languages, and you will make the universal language.
Are you gonna shunk out of that or?
Oh yeah, that's right. I gotta end the clip.
Okay.
That might be too short of a clip. I might have to include the whole language bit.
That'll just be it'll be we'll fit it in somewhere.
Yeah.
Or it could be a Will Hunting from Goodwill Hunting. I just realized recently Goodwill Hunting.
Yeah.
It's not like Goodwill. They're not like hunting for goodwill. Like the guy's name is Goodwill. No, his name is Will Hunting.
Yeah.
Is the name of the character. So
yeah,
he's
Goodwill
good.
Hunting.
He's good.
Yeah, he's good. Yeah, because the whole premise of that film was he didn't believe that he was good.
Yeah.
He just and he
was a janitor.
he was a janitor, and he was afraid to believe in himself, and so he would try and just push himself back.
Yeah, but like okay, he's good Will Hunting. They're not hunting for goodwill.
Yeah,
which they may have like it still would make sense in the film. So
it would actually, because you're
Yeah.
hunting for goodwill.
Right.
Yeah.
And he was good. And there's in that film what's his name?
The actor Robin Williams.
Robin Williams. Yeah, the scene where they're in cause Robin Williams is a therapist. The scene where Goodwill starts like yelling at Robin Williams and then talked about how his wife died and all that stuff. Pretty intense.
Yeah. I do love that movie. It's one of my. I never say this. It's on the top of my list, of movies that I really enjoy.
How often do you check your list?
I do a little browsing every now and then, but there's so many on the top list. It's difficult to manage sometimes. Like I think Pulp Fiction is somewhere in there, and it changes every day sometimes.
Yeah.
But I have noticed that Goodwill Hunting consistently stays on that top list.
What about like Avatar?
Avatar's okay. It's
With the blue people?
Yeah, with the blue people. I wouldn't say it's like, one of those movies where I'm like, wow.
Well, I mean,
It's
they spent
like-
a lot of money on it.
They did.
They're making Avatar too.
Oh. The first movie was already like pretty just like, it's okay, it's good, it's not bad.
It was very long, but it was engaging to me. Military, blue people who are tribal, these flying dinosaur things that they ride, the connection with the trees. There's a lot of good elements in there. But then it sort of doesn't make sense when it's tied into such a. I think it was Universal Studios that did the film. Like, I don't understand how they can have such, intimate ideas in the film, but to have it be a part of, they probably spent like $80 million on this movie. Like, I don't know how this big thing can be doing like these really, I don't really know what to call it, but like, the way that the blue people connect to their animals and the way that they portray all of the trees being able to talk to each other, like those sort of ideas, being a part of kind of like this juggernaut film franchise. Like I don't know how like these creative people can be a part of just this fucking monster.
Yeah.
I don't understand it. And like this movie Soul by Disney, like the same thing. They're talking about the idea of what happens after you die, and where people come from, and like where you go. You know, like when you're playing music, and like you disappear from like being there. Have you ever experienced that?
Oh, when you really get into the song and
Yeah.
you're yeah.
Yeah, so it talks about where you go when that happens, and like those that where you are there interfaces with where you are when you die, or and also where you were before you came here. And also like in that same place there's people who are super distracted with their lives. There's like an obsession they have that makes them forget why they even came to the earth, and they turn into like these monster guys, and then there's like this pirate that frees up those monsters, and then they go back and they realize what's going on. But that's, you know, Disney literally 40% of all revenue from films last year was Disney.
Yeah.
And it's just like this thing, you know, like this is really complex
the thing
stuff. I don't get it. I don't get how that is.
I also I couldn't even begin to try and understand how that works. The thing that bothers me often about some of these movies, that they spend a lot of money working on some of these movies, and sometimes they turn out good and sometimes they don't turn out great.
Yeah.
Sometimes what bothers me is that they try to throw into a movie that's already going to be bad deep topics that I would like to see done justice. I would love to see it explored thoroughly, the time taken to just craft just the perfect story to really explore some of these ideas. And when they butcher it and they throw the ideas in there, it's like, for me, I'm like, no, don't ruin it, please. It's like taking a really interesting idea and then stuffing it into something where it doesn't belong to be in, and saying it's good. See, we put some more ice cream on it. See, look, it's some chocolate sauce on there. It's like you're butchering it. Just cook it. Just cook it nice, how it's supposed to be made.
Yeah.
And try and have some new ideas in there. They're like, let me just stick it into this plot that we use every single year.
Yeah.
And they layer.
Sure. But it just couldn't you just make a better movie?
Yeah, and I think there's a lot of people who make independent films, or they're even working sometimes for a studio, right? And they make a really great movie that a studio finances.
Mm-hmm.
Even some really big studios, and they're great movies. Those movies aren't dead, you know, they still exist. But when you look at how many movies a company like Disney can make,
Yeah.
and how much they can flood the market with some really bad movies and some good movies, and even some great movies sometimes, right?
Yeah,
Sometimes they even get a great movie out there.
They did a 7-minute movie about a mom who cooks dumplings, and then one of the dumplings turns into a person.
I mean,
and then it gets too big. Like, I don't know. Maybe that's an example.
Interesting. You know, at least they tried something interesting. They took a chance on something interesting, and somebody got a creative idea through that was interesting. What I don't like is when they're like, how about we make the Dumpling Man too?
Oh, another one?
Yeah, and then another one.
Okay, well,
and then another one.
Yeah, so here's an example of that. So The Incredibles was a award-winning show, movie. You know, it came out in like 2008 or whatever, 2005. I don't know. I watched it. And then they come up with The Incredibles 2, which was a shitty movie. And it was about, people being obsessed with their phones and, women. Yeah, like, I don't know. Like, I'm not against women, but it's just now it's a propaganda film instead of just like a kid show.
They don't display the ideas in a meaningful way, I think is sometimes the problem as well. They stick these ideas in these movies, and it's completely obvious that they stuck it in there just to try and appease people and be like, but we threw in all these nice things.
But, like, it's for the kids. It's not for the parents to be appeased. So anyway, they did the second film, and then they also made some, shorts of, like, the baby in the film, Jack. He's got all these powers and whatever. And then there's, like, a 5-minute film about the babysitter watching Jack and him disappearing and floating through the ceiling and stuff. 5 minutes. And then they did another one where he was being babysit by a different person. Edna, the person that does the super suits.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I didn't watch that one. I didn't watch like 1 minute of the babysitter one. That's just that's what it is though.
I don't like it sometimes though that they feel like they have to put out many movies.
They shouldn't be putting out.
They should put out when it's right to put out.
Right.
It's like offering like so much of yourself all the time and just saying, let me dominate the movie market and just put out stuff even when they shouldn't be putting out stuff.
Yeah.
And then you're taking this writing group, and the writers even maybe sometimes will finish the movie. They will give it a good ending, and they will say, here's the ending, we're done. And they will say, wait a second, we're not done with you. And they have to make 5 more movies.
Yeah.
And, of course, if you're sitting on that writers' team, you're not going to get any good ideas into those films, especially as you start heading towards the 5th one.
Yeah.
And you weren't even ready to make a 5th one.
I thought it stopped at 3, and then they get Mark Wahlberg in there.
Yeah, yeah, they do. Yeah,
I literally didn't even know that. They didn't mark that. They didn't market that to me. Like a whole, just like a brand new movie.
Yeah.
On 4 and 5.
They had to figure out some new people to stick in there because I think some people even gave up.
I did, for sure.
Yeah. Who was in, it was Megan
Shia
Fox.
LaBeouf.
Shia LaBeouf stayed with the films, but wasn't it?
He was in 4 and 5 too.
Oh, was he? He might have stuck around. I know.
But then they switched out Megan Fox in number 3.
Yeah. I think she got sick of it.
Yeah, well, I don't know.
They couldn't. I think she was like, these movies are driving me insane.
Yeah.
I need more money to do these films.
Those are big movies.
And they were like, listen, we're spending a lot on Sasha, right? We can't afford
Sasha who?
Wait, am I thinking his name wrong?
Who's Shia?
Shia LaBeouf.
Not
Sasha LaBeouf. Shia LaBeouf.
Yeah, not Sacha Baron Cohen. But Shia LaBeouf, he was in this movie Peanut Butter Falcon. Did you see that?
Peanut Butter Falcon.
Peanut Butter Falcon.
It sounds familiar, but I haven't seen it.
So basically, Shia LaBeouf kind of is he lives in Florida in a swamp or whatever, some like swamp area, and he's just like a drifter kind of, and he doesn't really give a fuck about anything. And then there's this girl who's I think it's the girl from 50 Shades of Grey, and she is a kind of a nurse kind of person at a like old folks home. And at the old folks home, they didn't have anywhere for this kid to go, but there's this kid that has Down syndrome at the old folks home, and he's like a patient or whatever. And the Down syndrome kid really likes professional wrestling. And there's like a local professional wrestler, maybe like 50 miles away. So he escapes from the old folks' home. I think it's Dakota Johnson, the girl. She's like trying to chase him and catch him because she thinks that he can't take care of himself. And then he meets up with Shia LaBeouf, and they have like it's a really good movie. And they and then there's like some bad guys after him or whatever. Oh, I think Shia LaBeouf burnt down like a dock and stole a boat from some people, so that they're chasing after him, and yeah, it's a good movie.
Huh.
And at the end, he gets to be he does wrestling, and it's a good film.
Shia LaBeouf He sometimes hits gold with his movies, and sometimes he doesn't.
Well, what have you seen?
It's the same. Well, like with the Transformers, it's his
Dude, I like
acting
those.
is.
I liked those.
I liked so they just got worse and worse, the Transformers, because again they made too many, but he even his acting kind of slowly over time, it's like, ooh, you're wilting there a bit. And it's weird because he's a very interesting character. Have you ever heard of the "He Will Not Divide Us"?
I don't know. Is that the same as the "Just Do It"?
It's kind of similar. It's a meme kind of thing where, you know, the "Just Do It" meme. That was him just doing "Just do it, make your dreams come true."
Just do it. Yeah. Just do it. And then there are like so many memes on that.
Yeah.
And then it's like, you know the one where it's like, do, 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 and there's the guy floating through space.
Yeah.
There's one of those. That was pretty funny. Do, do, do.
He just like I don't know what it is, but he has now this complex about him where he thinks that he's like, so he tries to portray himself as like an artist, and obviously acting is an art form, and he is an artist, but he tries to do stuff outside of acting, and he tried to make this museum thing, this like art piece. He thought it was art. It was this live stream that constantly runs, and it was
with the bag on his head and stuff.
I think so. Yeah, he's done a number of weird things. There's a whole video on it.
It wasn't the thing where there was a live stream and anybody could go in and do anything to him.
Yeah. It was that, and he
had a bag on his head. He couldn't see what they were doing.
Yeah. There's
and it said like, "I'm not famous anymore" on the bag.
Yeah, and people, of course, they make fun of him for it because he's going out and he's trying so hard.
Yeah,
he's
that's
trying
pretty
so
intense,
hard.
though.
It is pretty intense. But then, of course, he gets mad. He gets angry, and the anger is so intense. He like starts licking somebody who was trying to mess with him. There's a video on it. I should actually probably shout out the person because this is where the story comes from. It's from Internet Historian.
Okay.
So go check out the video on "He Will Not Divide Us." It's like there's a number of parts to this series, and he tries to basically say he will not divide us because Trump, being in office and everything, and he was going to leave it up for the 4 years, and it's a nice thought. It is. It's like, okay, that's a nice thought, but then it's like you're just asking for people to mess with you,
Yeah.
Even people who don't like Trump think it's funny to mess with you because you're trying so hard, and then you do it. They had the flag, and then they stole the flag, and he tried to put it up, and then he moves it to different locations. And it's just a mess.
Oh yeah, I heard about that.
Yeah, he just made a mess. He just goes around, but it's funny, and I appreciate it for how funny it is. But the fact that he takes it so seriously, he can't have a laugh.
Yeah, I mean,
I don't know.
I think it comes down to he was a child actor. That's really challenging. He got on a rocket ship called Transformers, became super famous. That's got to be very hard. And then he kind of had a crash landing, I think, with some drug abuse. So. I mean, I think that just happens, and once you have all of your material needs met, then I think it can cause some sort of psychosis because everything you were doing before kind of was for no reason, you kind of realize, and so that's pretty challenging. I do like him in that movie, The Peanut Butter Falcon, and yeah, I value him as a person, I'd say.
I like him as an actor, and I value him as kind of a memeable character, even though he would not.
Yeah, but that's not as a
like
person.
That.
That's
not him as a person. No, I think that he. The thing that I don't like is that he's there's some people who they make something because it's funny. But when somebody tries to make something that's serious, and then it ends up not being serious, and then they just get mad, and they just get heated over the fact that people won't take it seriously. It's like that's on the person who made the thing. You gotta maybe reevaluate and say maybe what I'm doing is a little bit ridiculous, do I want to continue doing it and just embrace the comedical aspect? And comedy can be serious too, you know? Movements can happen through comedy, you know? That there's no shame in having something that turns comedical, but
So what you're saying is he's wrong for doing that.
I don't think he's wrong for doing it. I just think he gets really angry, and it just
And
fuels
you think being
this
angry
fire.
is wrong?
I don't think being angry is wrong, but the way that he doesn't seem to be somebody who he's had this consistent characteristic, right? That hasn't changed at all. It seems like somebody who just goes through life and just ah ah ah.
I think
Like,
this is what I think is happening. And this is what I think, whatever. I think you watch this internet historian guy and what he's doing is funny, the historian guy, I'm just assuming. And all of a sudden, then you just saying what the internet historian said?
no, he didn't give much commentary as to what he thought about the situation. He did end up saying that he thought that the whole thing was just ridiculous.
Yeah.
And it was. It got to points where even the people who were egging him on, it was ridiculous. Started ordering pizzas to the house where the flag was being stored. It's like his friend's house or something like that where he was keeping it. Absolutely ridiculous. I would say both sides are being ridiculous.
What
at
if
that
he's just
point.
the Vincent van Gogh dude of our time? That's what I'm saying is like
Maybe
I just
he
can't,
is.
I can't judge that because number one,
But it's funny, right? Like, I mean, like we can at least like the fact that it's funny. I don't think people were. I think that people were laughing. How do I put this? How do I put this the right way? People were laughing because it was funny in what is viewed as funny, right, or silly, or as ridiculous. He created something that appealed to that, and people who watch that, they say that's kind of funny, that's kind of weird, especially trying to being so serious about something that is so ridiculous.
yeah.
It was interesting thinking about all the different possible routes that a project like that could have taken.
And he got in some cars with random people and stuff, like he was hitchhiking and stuff.
I didn't know about the hitchhiking. There's a whole world of I guess
okay.
stuff that I don't know about.
So this kind of ties back into our original beginning conversation about artists in general. So artists can take many different forms. They can, obviously be in different mediums. But I think in general, there's like different levels of artists that people get to, let's say. And it's not better to be higher or lower, whatever. I think there's a certain stage that people get to where they recognize the world that they live in and that they don't necessarily like what's going on in it. And as an artist, you're playing with social context, and sometimes people will take actions as an artist in order to mess with the social context because they don't like it. And so their art is coming from a place of, you don't understand me and you don't really see what's going on. And that's at a certain level. And I'd say that maybe he, in those instances where you're saying, well, he's just getting mad because people don't understand. Yeah, that's just a certain level that people get to. I think there's levels beyond that, but like I can totally empathize with and recognize that people at a certain level of artistry are don't feel like they're understood, and there is anger, and there is I don't know what other emotions are in there, but it's definitely anger and being misunderstood that's actually feeling some of their art. And I just can't fault somebody for doing that because there's more levels.
I don't fault him for doing that. I have sympathy for what he did for it not working out. I have sympathy for that, and I have sympathy for him trying.
Well, it didn't work out for you.
Well, he had to shut it down because there were so many people that just kept, you know, messing with him. He shut it down. That's why he kept moving the flag too, because he couldn't stop people from stealing it. He'd move it around all over the place. But
There was like a 24-hour surveillance of the flag, right?
yeah. I guess it's just the attitude about it, because someone who embraces that their art is unconventional won't. They're not gonna be like, no one understands me, or like aggressive, like just assaulting someone, licking them, doing these crazy things. And yes, he's a child actor too, and so of course there's rough past. So of course he's probably got some psychological damage.
And there's a
But
movie.
then there's
There's a movie about that called Honey Boy that he wrote and directed and starred in. And he plays his dad in the film, and he hadn't talked to his dad for like 25 years. And basically he plays his dad, and his dad is abusive and taking advantage of him and stealing money and stuff. And it really talks about that, and it's really intense because he's playing his own dad. And
that's really interesting.
Yeah.
I did not know that he did that project. Yeah, no, I definitely have sympathies for him. I just think, like, hopefully one day he learns how to express his unconventional art and not take it so personally to the point where you're yelling at people. There's a clip he's yelling at he wants French fries. Why don't you give me any French fries? It's like, dude, please.
yeah, I just
stop
can't fault
thinking
him.
that you're
I can't fault him
It's
for
just
that,
like
man.
when people think that they're God tier, right?
But what
They
if
think that they're
everybody
a
knew?
god.
But what if everybody
It's
knew
like-
about you, and most people did whatever you wanted them to do?
I would hope that I would be able to see through that and be able to remember that I'm a human being and I'm not some god tier.
Well, how do you know what you would
Person.
do? That's all I'm saying.
That's true. And again, I do say in that circumstance, being a child star, right? You wouldn't it would be difficult to gain those skills and to tone down.
You're a millionaire when you're 12.
Yeah, that's insane. So I do have sympathies for him. I just I'm not gonna say that he's one of the people that I'd be like, that's the pinnacle of expression. I would say that he's gone through a lot in his life. You can't help but, you know what, in some of the scenarios he's found himself in, you can't help but laugh because it is funny. But at the same time, I can also appreciate on the other side that he's trying to express himself. Just hopefully one day he learns some human skills, maybe eventually.
Yeah. I don't know. You could say that about probably any actor, and you just got to imagine what causes somebody to want to be an artist. Does it come from being misunderstood and not necessarily fitting the mold? And for somebody doing it at a large scale, there's going to be people who don't like your art, and you just happen to be the one of the people that don't like what he's doing. And that's good. I've heard stories of many child actors overdosing, doing drugs, having unhealthy habits and stuff. So doing heroin, overdosing on heroin, overdosing on heroin laced with fentanyl. You heard about fentanyl?
Yeah, there's a lot of that. Don't want to bring back the Chinese government, but there is a lot of it being made in China.
Really?
Knockoff stuff that is very, very toxic.
It's deadly. Okay, so we'll put up a picture of the deadly amount of fentanyl. It's compared to a penny. Very, very small. But what I learned, and if you're interested about this topic, you should go watch the Patriot Act episode on fentanyl, because it's crazy. But basically, heroin that has fentanyl in it is 20 times as profitable as regular heroin.
Damn.
But it's also, multiples, I don't know, I don't make up a number, but it's a lot more deadly because like if you have like a salt shaker and you like shake it one time and the salt comes out.
Yeah.
So like less than that amount, maybe half that amount will kill any person.
Damn. Yeah,
That's a very small amount.
Yeah, it's insane. Very a lot of problems are going on out there. Drug abuse among people who are wealthy and not wealthy.
Yeah.
Like going back to child stars, even people who weren't child stars, they get to a certain level of fame and they can't manage it. It's difficult and it leads them to find ways to escape. Even somebody who makes a bunch of money, let's say in a stock trade, they get bored with all their money.
Yeah.
And then vice versa, you have the person who's so poor can barely afford to pay the bills.
They want to escape.
Yeah, they want to escape. It's humans. It's a human desire to escape situations that are not pleasing, situations that can create boredom, a number of different things. Just that want to escape.
Yeah, I wonder if there's any people that have healthy minds, and they do heroin.
Healthy minds.
Like you're just saying you do heroin as an escape, right? Whether you're at the top or the bottom of the socioeconomic chart. But what if there's just somebody that's healthy, they have good relationships with their family, and they just, maybe twice a week they just do heroin.
That could probably happen too. Maybe they're just curious and they try it.
They just like drugs.
Yeah, they might.
I was just wondering,
It's interesting because there's I always have this this thing where I always wonder what would it look like in a society where I think we actually had a bit on this. I can't remember if it was the episode that was scrapped, but anyways, it's if all drugs were just legalized and controlled, right?
Mm-hmm.
They were what do you call it? They were monitored by the government.
Regulated and taxed, yeah.
Yeah, regulated and taxed. You could have the FDA involved to make sure that you're not creating just the most toxic stuff on the planet. It's gonna be toxic no matter what, but just
clean
controlling
and,
it.
Not deadly.
Yeah,
for sure.
yeah. Just keeping it
in smaller
under
doses,
wraps.
Right.
I just wonder what that would look like. Crime would decrease probably. Well, definitely it would decrease. You wouldn't have as much,
keeping it under wraps, like you don't want to buy the drugs from other unlicensed professionals.
Yeah, or someone who could be dangerous. Instead, you're going to shops or a government-run establishment thing that's selling the more dangerous stuff where it needs to be controlled. And I'm even talking prostitution because I actually
you want legal prostitution?
I think the prostitution should be legal because I think right now these women, they're in dangerous situations and they can't go to the police. If you legalize it, these women could become independent workers. They wouldn't have to work for anybody else, and they would be taxed. Would be regulated.
But what about if they made bank robbery legal so that nobody died during bank robberies?
But I think bank robbery is different. Bank robbery, how is prostitution hurting human beings is what I would wonder. It seems like a very choice-dependent system where if someone's going to go find a prostitute, they're going to find a prostitute. They're going to do it illegally or they're going to do it legally. And it's not harming anybody else.
I don't know.
Other than...
I'd like to think as much as possible is that people are able to make their own decisions. The only downside that I could see is if you are, you would then be not necessarily treating a person like a person and more as an object.
I guess I wonder because the women who don't want to do it wouldn't do it. The women who want to do it anyways, right?
I mean, there's some that don't do it because it's illegal.
I'm sure there's a portion, I guess. Out of water. I guess I don't think that the number would be that drastically different. And not to mention all these people who are in human trafficking are stuck in this system. Their lives are in danger. They're not being treated right. They would be free. And just
Why
as
would they
many
be
people
free?
would leave the system
Why would they be free?
because they could contact the police. There
They can
could be
still
laws
contact, if you're being kidnapped, you can still if you have the option, you can contact the police.
These women who are working in prostitution, they feel like they can't contact the police because it's illegal.
Okay.
So when you
can just say you
legalize
got
it,
kidnapped and forced into it.
there's still a fear of legal ramifications, especially when people don't know. I don't know what the laws are per state, and I don't know if there's any ramifications that could come on to the women who are working in these prostitution fields, or if you're viewed as an independent contractor. But
Now
a lot of these
the law's
people,
now coming on people. That's not good.
the law is sexually harassing people now.
Yeah.
I don't know. I just like, you hear all these instances of people being afraid to contact the law, and I just think that everyone should have the option to not do that, and then you could eliminate human trafficking in the country. You'd monitor all these, if there was establishments that opened up, you'd monitor those. Independent contractors, you'd monitor them. You'd just have it all under a system that's safe, where abuse can be reported immediately, taxed, just all controlled, and making sure that, health is also a priority. Just get this all under wraps, and just, make sure that nobody can be abused. And just say, if you want to do it, great. If you don't. But make sure that you're treating, if you do own an establishment that's selling sex, you're going to treat the employees right, because it's going to be under the legal system. And if you don't, no.
Yeah, I think I'll have to think about that. I mean, what's even causing somebody to want to be a prostitute,
That's another question. It's got to do, I guess, with... I guess there's some people who would want to do it, and then there's people who feel like they're forced because they're in an economic situation.
Yeah, and I think we should solve that.
Definitely. I think so, too.
Because, God, you don't, unless they want to, there's just people that like to do it, but...
I think we should do both, though. I think it should be, if that's how you want to make a living, and if you feel like you're happy because you're making bank doing it, go ahead. But if you want to work another job and you don't want to do that, that's great, too. There should be plenty of opportunity. I don't know, just giving people just the options and just saying, cut out the guy who's going to be doing some shady stuff, who's going to be using his gun, who's going to be being like, you can't contact the police, man. I don't know why he sounds kind of Russian. He kind of sounds like a weird, kind of mix. Hey, man, you can't contact the police. I don't know who that sounds.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to impersonate anyone, okay? This is just what this guy sounds like.
He's a first-generation immigrant, and he grew up in...
just in some weird place.
South L.A.
South L.A., yeah. He's an immigrant of South L.A. Hey, you can't contact the police. Hey,
and he's also... he jogs everywhere he goes.
Yeah, he wears a tracksuit. He's inspired by kind of some of the Russian mafia people. So he has his gun. Hey,
very animated character.
Yeah. Please, I want to leave. I want to leave now. You can't.
Wow, they got a little boy. They got a little boy.
He's working for him. He trafficked him in from.
Man. from one of those Stan countries. All right. Well, we got our hands cut out for us. Thanks for watching, you guys. Pretty energetic episode. If you're a prostitute, reach out to us. Not for sex, but for
conversation.
Maybe we'll have you on the podcast.
Tell us what you think about this whole system.
Do you like it? Do you not like it? Just, maybe we have the opportunity to record a caller when they call in. So, we would love to have you on. And maybe we'll search for some prostitutes.
Yeah. And any fans of Ariana Grande, anyone who's a fan, call in and you can talk to Ariana for the first time.
You can, yes. And I thought you were gonna say something about her being a prostitute.
No, I would never.
Jesus, man, not yet.
I've already offended her enough. I feel like
You
misspelled the name. I think I called her flat.
You did
last
call her
episode.
flat.
God,
She doesn't
yeah.
want you to talk about that.
I know. I won't.
Okay, thanks for watching. See you next time.
See you next time.